The ancient Medina of Marrakech breathed with centuries of stories, its narrow lanes winding like veins through the heart of Morocco. Nathaniel Ashford had come here to escape, though he barely understood from what. His shipping empire spanned continents, his wealth immeasurable, yet something essential remained missing from his carefully constructed life. The sprawling riad he'd rented offered perfect solitude, its courtyard fountain creating a barrier between himself and the chaos beyond the carved wooden doors. He discovered Cassandra in the restoration studio adjacent to his temporary residence. She was crouched before an ancient tapestry, her dark curls tied back with a simple cream ribbon, her slender fingers moving with reverence across threads that had survived generations. She didn't notice him at first, too absorbed in her meticulous work. When she finally looked up, her green eyes held an intelligence that immediately captivated him, an understanding of something he couldn't name. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, without alarm, merely stating fact as she rose gracefully. "Neither are you," Nathaniel replied, surprising himself with his directness. Cassandra smiled then, a slow, knowing expression that suggested she had anticipated this moment long before it arrived. She was a conservator, she explained, specializing in preserving pre-colonial Moroccan artifacts. She had been commissioned to restore several pieces for a private collector, work that demanded her complete dedication and presence. Over the following days, Nathaniel found excuses to visit the studio. Ostensibly, he was interested in the restoration process, in the history embedded within each fiber and pigment. Truly, he was drawn to Cassandra herself, to the way she spoke about her work with such profound passion, to how her hands moved with certainty and grace. She never discussed personal details willingly, deflecting his questions with practiced ease. Yet her presence filled the spaces he hadn't known were empty. One evening, as they stood on the riad's rooftop beneath stars that seemed impossibly close, Cassandra took his hand. Her touch was electric, awakening something dormant within him. Nathaniel pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that felt like remembering something he'd never known. She responded with equal intensity, her fingers threading through his dark hair, her body melting against his. They made love that night on cushioned loungers draped in silk, the sounds of Marrakech's evening prayers creating a haunting backdrop to their passionate encounter. Afterward, Cassandra rested her head on his chest, and Nathaniel felt his carefully ordered world begin to crack open. He was falling, terrifyingly fast, into something that could destroy everything he had built. 6 months of deception followed. Nathaniel maintained his penthouse in London, his position as chairman of Ashford Maritime, and his marriage to Vivienne, a woman he had selected with the same strategic thinking he applied to corporate acquisitions. They inhabited separate wings of their townhouse, connected by obligation and social responsibility rather than emotion. Vivienne had long since stopped asking questions about his frequent absences, content to maintain appearances for their social circles. Cassandra had taken a position at a conservation laboratory in London, a convenient arrangement that Nathaniel had carefully orchestrated through financial incentives no institution could refuse. They met in a discreet apartment in Mayfair, a second life that felt more authentic than his primary existence. Here, Nathaniel shed his corporate armor, becoming someone softer, more vulnerable, more real. In their private sanctuary, Cassandra explored Nathaniel's body with the same dedicated attention she brought to ancient textiles, learning every scar, every sensitive point, every secret his skin held. She whispered against his chest, tracing patterns across his ribs as he held her close, his fingers tangled in her hair. Their physical connection was transcendent. But equally important were the conversations that unfolded in the darkness, where Nathaniel found himself confessing fears and dreams he'd never shared with anyone. "Leave your wife," Cassandra would murmur against his shoulder. "Run away with me." Nathaniel always hesitated, caught between two incompatible versions of himself. He had responsibilities, business interests, a reputation built on stability and trustworthiness. Yet with Cassandra, he glimpsed the possibility of authentic happiness, unconstrained by societal expectations. He would hold her tighter, kiss her forehead, and promise futures he wasn't certain he could deliver. Vivienne, meanwhile, had begun sensing the shift. Her husband's attention had become scattered, his explanations for absences increasingly vague. She noticed the way he scrutinized his phone, the fresh eagerness in his appearance before departing for supposed business meetings. The woman he'd married understood men's weaknesses. She had always known Nathaniel was capable of infidelity. What surprised her was the depth of the connection, evident in the way he now looked at life differently, as though seeing possibilities beyond their arranged partnership. Instead of confronting him directly, Vivienne became strategic, hiring a private investigator to confirm what her instincts already knew. When the report arrived, detailing Nathaniel's affair with a conservation specialist, Vivienne experienced an unexpected emotion: curiosity rather than rage. This woman had somehow accomplished what she herself had failed to do. She had awakened something in Nathaniel that Vivienne had long assumed was dormant or non-existent. The anniversary celebration was supposed to occur in their country estate in Cotswolds, a weekend designed to demonstrate their enduring partnership to select friends and business associates. Vivienne had orchestrated every detail, from the string quartet to the champagne selection, creating a performance of matrimonial success that masked the reality underneath. Nathaniel had nearly canceled, citing sudden complications in a shipping deal to Asia. Vivienne saw through the excuse immediately, her patience finally exhausted. She confronted him the evening before the planned event, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had learned to weaponize elegance. "I know about Cassandra," she stated, watching his face drain of color. "I also know that she's not simply another affair in your long history of indiscretions. This one means something. This one terrifies you." Nathaniel's hands clenched into fists. "Vivienne, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You finally found someone who makes you feel alive, and now you're torn between your carefully constructed life and the possibility of something authentic." Vivienne moved toward the window, her silhouette framed by London's evening light. "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to meet me in Morocco, in a Kasbah near the Atlas Mountains, in precisely 1 week. You'll bring Cassandra with you, and we'll settle this matter properly, away from prying eyes." Nathaniel stared at his wife, seeing her with new clarity. Vivienne had never been the naive, passive partner he had assumed. She was strategic, calculated, and entirely in control. Her proposal was equal parts threat and invitation. "Why would you want that?" he asked carefully. Vivienne turned back to face him, and he caught something vulnerable flickering across her features before her usual composure returned. "Because," she said quietly, "I deserve to understand what I'm losing. And perhaps, Nathaniel, you all deserve the opportunity to discover what you're really fighting for." She provided him with the Kasbah's location, an ancient property she had secretly purchased through intermediaries, situated in a remote valley where the world's complications seemed to dissolve into timeless beauty. Nathaniel found himself agreeing, unable to summon reasons to refuse. Drawn toward whatever revelation awaited in that distant landscape, he told Cassandra everything that evening, expecting her to flee, to reject the madness of Vivian's proposition. Instead, Cassandra regarded him with those penetrating green eyes and said simply, "Then we go. Perhaps it's time we stop running from the truth." The Casbah rose from the mountainous terrain like something from a fever dream, its terracotta walls glowing in the sunset, its architecture speaking of centuries past. Nathaniel and Cassandra arrived first, traveling in separate vehicles to maintain plausible deniability. The structure's interior held courtyards, connected by arched hallways, decorated with zeligate tilework and carved cedar, each space designed to encourage contemplation and isolation simultaneously. Vivian arrived as evening descended, stepping from a private car with the composure of someone attending a business meeting, rather than a confrontation that might alter 3 lives irreversibly. She embraced Nathaniel with unexpected warmth, kissed his cheek, then turned to Cassandra with genuine curiosity rather than hostility. "You're smaller than I imagined," Vivian observed, extending her hand. "Also, considerably more intelligent, based on the way you're analyzing this situation." Cassandra shook her hand cautiously. "I'm not certain how to interpret that assessment." "As a compliment," Vivian assured her. "Shall we have dinner? I've arranged for the property staff to prepare something exceptional. We have much to discuss, and I find that conversation flows more naturally when one's stomach is satisfied." They dined in the Casbah's central courtyard, beneath a canopy of stars that seemed impossibly vast. The meal consisted of multiple courses, each more intricate than the last, flavors building in complexity as the evening progressed. Vivian orchestrated the conversation skillfully, asking Cassandra about her conservation work, her background, her philosophy regarding the preservation of history. Cassandra answered honestly, her initial defensiveness gradually diminishing as she recognized genuine interest rather than interrogation. Nathaniel observed his wife and lover conversing, noting unexpected points of connection between them. Both possessed fierce intelligence, a commitment to authenticity despite living within systems that rewarded pretense, an appreciation for beauty in its various manifestations. Later, after Vivian had retired to her chambers, Nathaniel found Cassandra on a terrace overlooking the dark mountains. She stood wrapped in a silk robe, her curls loose around her shoulders. He approached carefully, uncertain of his welcome, and was surprised when she immediately melted into his embrace. "Your wife is extraordinary," Cassandra whispered. "I think I might have misjudged her entirely." Nathaniel turned her toward him, his hands framing her face with infinite tenderness. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, pouring into the connection all his confusion and devotion and fear. Cassandra responded by pulling him closer, their bodies finding familiar rhythms as they made love against the terrace wall, the night air cool against their heated skin, the ancient Casbah bearing witness to their passion. Afterward, they remained intertwined, Cassandra's head resting on Nathaniel's chest, both understanding that something fundamental was shifting, that the narrative they'd been constructing no longer applied to their circumstances. The following morning brought crystalline clarity and devastating honesty. Vivienne had arranged for tea on the Casbah's highest terrace, a space open to endless sky and mountain vistas. She poured the fragrant liquid with ritualistic precision, her movements controlled and measured. "I've been thinking about our arrangement," she began, addressing them both, but focusing primarily on Nathaniel. Specifically, about what it represents and what it cannot represent. "I married you because you were reliable, because we shared certain ambitions and social circles, because I was 25 and uncertain of my own worth. I didn't marry you because I loved you. I'm not certain love entered our equation at any point." Nathaniel absorbed this statement without surprise. He had always suspected that Vivienne's emotional landscape differed substantially from his own. Conversely, Vivienne continued, directing her attention toward Cassandra. "You've managed something I couldn't accomplish. You've awakened something in Nathaniel that he didn't know existed. You've made him question everything he assumed was permanent and important. And perhaps most significantly, you've been honest with him. When your entire relationship has been built on deception, that takes a particular courage." Cassandra's hand sought Nathaniel's beneath the table. "So here's what I propose," Vivienne said, finally revealing the true purpose of this gathering. "I will divorce you, Nathaniel, cleanly, publicly, for reasons of irreconcilable differences. You'll retain the country estate and 30% of our shared investments. I'll take the London properties and the remainder, enough to pursue projects of genuine interest rather than merely maintaining a facade of respectability." Nathaniel opened his mouth to respond, but Vivienne raised a hand, silencing him. "However," she continued, "you will not leave your company with Cassandra. You will not run away. Instead, you'll establish a foundation dedicated to cultural preservation, with Cassandra as its director. You'll use your considerable resources to protect the very artifacts she's dedicated her life to conserving. You'll build something meaningful together, something that transcends personal desire and contributes to the world." She paused, sipping her tea with deliberate calm. "And I will take a position overseeing Ashford Maritime's expansion into renewable energy initiatives. It seems I'm rather talented at running organizations. And I'm exhausted with pretending otherwise for the sake of propriety. We'll create something new from the remnants of our old structure, something honest and purposeful." The sun crested the mountain peaks, flooding the terrace with golden light. Nathaniel felt something shift internally, like tectonic plates realigning to create new landscapes. Vivienne was right. They had all been performing, following scripts written generations before them. Perhaps breaking those scripts offered the possibility of authentic lives, period. Cassandra squeezed his hand, and Nathaniel turned to find tears streaming down her face, though her expression radiated joy rather than sorrow. Vivienne observed them with something approaching warmth. "You love each other," Vivienne said, simply. "That's evident. But love alone cannot sustain two people if their connection is built on deception and escape. What you're being given now is the opportunity to build something real, grounded in partnership and shared purpose. That's considerably more valuable than stolen moments in darkened apartments." They remained on the terrace as the morning advanced. Three people rewriting their futures in conversation and acknowledgement and carefully considered honesty. The Kasbah's ancient walls had witnessed countless dramas across the centuries. They absorbed this new chapter into their endless memory. Nathaniel would later reflect that some endings possess the architecture of beginnings. Vivian went on to revolutionize Ashford Maritime's environmental practices, earning recognition and genuine fulfillment she had never anticipated discovering. Cassandra and Nathaniel established the Ashford Foundation for Cultural Preservation, marrying their passion and resources into work that genuinely mattered. And Vivienne, against all probability, found love with the Foundation's legal director, a woman who appreciated her intelligence and strategic brilliance in ways Nathaniel never could. Sometimes, the greatest adventures involve not discovering new worlds, but rather dismantling false ones, revealing the authentic landscapes that existed beneath civilization's careful constructions all along.